Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about the man who saved the world. In 1983, a Soviet automatic missile alert system spun 5 inbound US nuclear warheads. That officer on duty that day could have picked up the phone. He could have said, Zappos, Ruskov, whatever the Russian is, missiles inbound, hiding the situation, and would have caused a response by the Soviet Union to send missiles back. But he didn't. You know why he didn't do that? Because he used common sense. And he said, no way, this makes zero sense. And he said, there's got to be a problem with the system, right? There's got to be a problem. Turns out there was a problem with the system. And by stopping a response, he stopped a catastrophe from happening. So when we're designing artificially intelligent weapons, and when we're implementing these weapons within our military apparatus, we have to ask those same questions. Will that artificial intelligence stop that mistake from occurring? Will it recognize the mistake? Can we trust an artificially intelligent weapon to be in that position? And I want you to ponder that question for a second. I just want to say thank you for having us back. Just so you know, my name is Brandon and this is Cameron.
Since 1995, your company, Lockheed Martin, has been at the forefront of the defense and national security industries. Today, the globe finds itself at a crossroads with the revolution of artificial intelligence technology. Around the world, governments are going to start exerting more pressure on companies like yourselves to incorporate more of these autonomous and artificial intelligence technologies into the weapons they deploy on the battlefield. These decisions on how the design and sale of these weapons present significant moral and ethical issues that senior managers like yourselves are going to have to confront every day. We first want to, before we dive into the ethical framework, we want to also make sure that we're on the same page about some key terminology from yesterday. We define artificial intelligence to be an algorithm that is capable of performing human-like tasks, learns from experience, and is capable of adjusting to new inputs. An autonomous weapons system, or AWS, is a weapon that is capable of selecting and identifying and engaging targets without any human intervention. We split these two categories into semi-autonomous and fully autonomous weapons, with the distinction being that semi-autonomous weapons require a human input to make the final command, or in effect symbolically press the red button to engage a target, whereas a fully autonomous system doesn't require that human input. We also define weapons in classes of offensive and defensive, with the distinction being that defensive weapons are done as a reactionary response to a previous attack, whereas offensive weapons engage a target on their own.
Yeah, so yesterday we went ahead and we created our ethical framework, right? We looked at the benefits that these weapons could have for the majority of people, but then we also looked at the harms these weapons can have for the individuals. So for benefits, we had 3 main benefits, and they were huge benefits. Number 1, when implementing these weapons, we're going to reduce civilian casualties. The smarter the weapons, the less inadvertent death is going to occur. Number 2, we said that these weapons are going to deter future wars from happening. And number 3, we said that these weapons will create an ecosystem, create an environment where we need less combat boots on the ground, less soldiers in harm's way. Great things, right? But everything's not always so rosy. Because on the other hand, we have harm to the individual. And we have 3 really big harms for the individual. Number 1, by implementing any technology, you're gonna have mistakes, right? Every time we get a new iPhone update, there's always mistakes, always problems with it. But unfortunately with weapons, with autonomous weapons, when they make a mistake, when they have a glitch, we're losing innocent lives. It's death that occurs. Number 2, we see that these weapons are unfortunately have the potential to be hacked in by enemies, by terrorist organizations that can again lead to innocent civilians getting hurt. And number 3, we said that these weapons, unlike any weapons before in humanity, have the potential to erode individual and human rights. And so we took this comparison between these benefits and these costs, and we applied them to your company's principles of do what's right, respect others, and perform with excellence. And so we said for do what's right, we said the intent of the weapon must be to reduce harm, to reduce inadvertent death. And we said for respect others, that these weapons must follow international humanitarian law and universal ethical principles. And then we said for performing with excellence, which I know Lockheed, you guys are always excellent, but we said for performing with excellence, that we had to make sure these weapons are responsible. That before we sell them to our clients, that we have to make sure the margin of error and the mistakes that these weapons will make are as small as humanly possible.
So we also realize that when we're talking about integrating AI technology into weapons, that we're talking about issues that go far beyond just your company's values. We're talking about questions that we have to ponder both as citizens of the United States of America and just as human beings with certain rights, but also certain responsibilities to each other. So we feel that incorporating fully autonomous technology into offensive weapons presents an implicit ethical issue with the chain of command and authority vested in the governments of the United States and of other Western nations by their citizens. By voting for our elected officials, the citizens of the United States are implicitly giving those people the authority through our social contract to make decisions on their behalf through our civilian-controlled military. By exiting that chain of command and authority and placing the decision-making process into the hands of an algorithm, we've circumvented the power that the people have vested in their government officials and allowed a system with no accountability to the people through free and fair elections to make military decisions for them.
Furthermore, we already discussed how technology can make mistakes. So if we implement a fully autonomous offensive weapon, can we believe at this point in time that that weapon will have zero mistakes, that that weapon will take all the contextual factors, all the variables out in a very complex human environment and not have one death to occur from collateral damage? I think not. And the problem is because weapons are rational. They take in numbers, they take in data, they take in algorithms. But the thing is, the world's not a rational place. Human beings are more than numbers. There's a reason that after 50 years, I'll repeat that, after 50 years, philosophers still debate the trolley problem. Do you kill one life to save 5? I don't have the answer. Cameron doesn't have the answer. I know you're really smart, you serve on the board of Lockheed, but I guarantee you probably don't have the answer either. And the reason that we do not have the answer is the same reason that we need human beings making the decision between life and between death. So because of that, we are demanding that fully offensive autonomous weapons need to be semi-autonomous. Meaning they can do everything that a fully autonomous weapon can do, except when it comes to that final decision between life and between death, a human being needs to be making that decision. And so, go ahead.
So we also don't want to trap ourselves in a vacuum here and only think, we want to be realists. We want to understand that we're living in a complex global community. The world is not a friendly place, and we realize that our adversaries around the world are also developing the same technologies that we're looking at. So we also feel that we definitely need to address the fact that our rivals and other major global powers are going to be developing these technologies as well, and may not have the same issues and the same moral compass that we do, that may prohibit them from developing a weapon such as a nanodrone that resembles a mosquito, that's capable of fully autonomously selecting targets and assassinating people at will.
So I know what you're thinking. Lockheed is number one, we want to be number one forever. Why should we not develop fully autonomous offensive weapons if our competitors are going to do it? Aren't we going to fall behind? I'm telling you, that's irrelevant. You know why? Because when we say semi-autonomous weapons, we're not talking about making weapons that are less effective. We're not talking about making weapons that are less smart. We're talking about making weapons to add only one thing. Only one thing. To bring in a human to make that decision between life and death. We're asking you to do only one thing. To bring morality to the weapon. And we believe that by bringing morality to a weapon, we're only increasing its effectiveness, not decreasing it.
So just to wrap up what our recommendations are, we definitely feel that the most important thing when we're talking about offensive autonomous weapons systems is that you have to incorporate the concept of having a human in the loop and making sure that that symbolic red button is only being pressed by a human being. On the defensive side, we do feel that it's okay to incorporate fully autonomous technologies as long as the primary target of the weapon system is not a human. In addition to this concept, we also recommend that Lockheed provide full, comprehensive education programs to the militaries, both in the United States and around the world, that these weapons are being sold to ensure that they're being used as intended and by their proper mechanisms. We also want to make sure that the company is transparent and is specific about how these technologies work, so that people of the United States and the world understand the stakes of the future of warfare and make their voices heard. We feel that incorporating any sort of autonomous technology, whether it be fully or semi, presents major moral and ethical issues for the world moving forward. And the next generation of warfare will contain some questions for human beings to confront more than ever before. But we feel that Lockheed has the ability to be at the forefront of the global discussion on how we approach this new age of warfare. We want you to develop weapons that incorporate autonomous technologies. The United States needs you to develop weapons that incorporate these autonomous technologies to keep us all safe. We just want to make sure you do it in a way that respects the rights of yourselves and those around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.